All right, the show is What's Going On. I'm your host, Hugo Fernandez, here on LaGuardia Web Radio. And sorry, I was watching our Twitch feed. I always like to get in the mood. Today, my guests are Professor Dr. Kyle Holler Gregory of the Department of Social Science. One of his students, Rohit, here, and Elijah Caballero is expected, but not here yet. They're both current LaGuardia students. And we're going to be discussing the Black Lives 2023 Black Lives Matter Summit and a mock trial event taking place on April 26th and May 1st, respectively. So covering two topics on the show. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
Of
We're
course.
excited about today's conversation.
Ditto. We talked a little bit about the format. I like to give our guests a chance to talk a little bit about themselves, starting with their background. And in your case, Professor Holler Gregory, some of your educational background as well before coming to LaGuardia. So who would like to start?
I'll take the lead.
Okay.
So I'm actually a licensed attorney in New Jersey. So my highest level of education is a Juris Doctorate degree from Rutgers School of Law in Newark. But before becoming an attorney, I actually studied economics. So I worked for Prudential Financial in their finance department, Prudential Capital Group. And I worked as a performance analyst. And the title of my job was a security operations analyst. And so I really enjoyed, my time at Prudential. But I always had a liking for the law, criminal law, business law, entertainment law. Those were my interests. So I ended up pursuing a Juris Doctorate degree, and then I took the bar, and I'm now licensed in New Jersey. And then some of my professional background includes working for many different law firms. I started working out as a law clerk for a judge in the Superior Court of New Jersey in the criminal division, which was an exceptional experience. It really taught me the law and also taught me the policies and procedures for deciding cases. It also taught me how administration works with a courtroom, especially as it pertains to prosecutors and attorneys and those people that are part of the court staff. So I really enjoyed working as a law clerk. I also worked as a professor at many different institutions. I worked at Essex County College. I also taught at a high school, Eastside High School in Newark, New Jersey. If you ever heard of the movie Lean on Me with Morgan Freeman, the basis of that movie was based upon that high school. So that was an exceptional experience also. Then after teaching, and at the same time when I was teaching, I also worked at LaGuardia Community College. But while I was teaching, I also pursued working as a paralegal. So I worked for many different law firms. One of the law firms I worked for was Brandon J. Broderick. I also worked at the Freeman Law Center. So I've had some considerable experience in the private and public sector. And then I worked as an attorney for the Freeman Law Center, where I practiced family law, worked on personal injury cases, municipal cases involving like traffic violations, and I did some quasi-criminal cases involving domestic violence and also small possession cases. So I have considerable experience in many different fields as an attorney and also as an economist. So that's some of my educational and professional background. And I'll let Rohit give his brief description.
Yes. Hi, my name is Rohit. I am a student here at LaGuardia Community College, and I am currently a criminal justice major. Now, though I do not have much experience when it comes to the criminal justice field, it is something that I'm very passionate about, and I do look forward to perhaps pursuing a career in being perhaps a licensed attorney.
Wow. I was going to say, Rohit, by the way, because you are behind Dr. Holler Gregory, the camera is focusing on the doctor, and you're slightly out of what the photographers call depth of field. I don't know what's going to happen when the two of you come in together, but you still seem a little bit out of focus. I don't know why it is that the camera is very sharp on Dr. Holler Gregory, but we'll see what we can do. Again, one of the things that we deal with the new virtual way. I just wanted to say, how impressive your background is, Dr. Oliver Gregory, and wondering, you know, so you start out in the financial world, though there was a security component, I guess, always there, and then move to law, but then move to education. I mean, obviously there's interest, but is there anything else you want to talk about that explains why you would? Because most people would think you'd be back at Prudential as, some sort of high-powered corporate attorney for them now with all of this other kind of background inside. Meanwhile, you're a PSC CUNY faculty member in Long Island City, New York. You want to talk about that at all?
Yes, definitely. Initially, my mentor was Oliver Quinn, and I did a lot of work with business law and ethics, code of conduct, developing those for corporations. Um, so he actually brought me into Prudential, and he was an attorney, and he worked at Prudential. So when I was at Prudential, he served as a mentor for me. And then he even advised me, based upon my interests, my diverse interests, in business, entertainment,
Right.
criminal, if I wanted to pursue all those different interests, the best avenue was to be an attorney. And so when I was in law school, I got experience in all different subject matters, which pertain to entertainment, business, criminal. And so I wanted to develop a profession or a career where I could have a hand in all those different industries. So teaching allowed for that, for me to get some experience with education. I really had an interest in that. So I really started off as an adjunct. So I would teach part time and I would practice and work in the legal field. And then through having actual firsthand experiences in multiple different industries, I took a liking to education in that field because my perspective is you always have to give back. And so being a teacher allowed me to give back and also to perfect my public speaking skills, which is necessary for being a good litigation attorney. So I continually am licensed and practiced, and I'm opening. My goal is to open up a law firm at some point, and also continue to teach because those are the two areas that I really love. But really, my mentor, he was involved in education. He was actually the law school I went to. He worked as a professor and a director of the minority student program as a dean there. So seeing his trajectory and the way that he went, he really encouraged me to pursue all avenues that I was interested in. And that mentor informed me that becoming an attorney allows you to do anything and be in every industry that you would like. So now I've been able to work in criminal justice here at LaGuardia Community College as a professor. I have also been able to work in the business and technology department as an adjunct, teaching paralegal courses and legal studies. And also I've been able to work hand in hand, with individuals in the legal department and other professors and staff and helping to set up events like the Black Lives Matter Committee. So I know it sounds like I'm just a professor, assistant professor at CUNY, LaGuardia Community College, but this is a very exceptional institution that allows you to dive into all those different industries also. So I thought because I had that experience in so many different fields, this type of job as an assistant professor would be ideal. And it also gives me the ability to still help others through law.
Have I got it wrong? Because I don't know where I have you down as a social science faculty member. You're business.
No, I worked in business and technology as an adjunct.
Right, exactly. With parallel with Hector Fernandez.
Yes, with Hector Fernandez and Michael Napolitano. And so I worked in that field as an adjunct.
But you're social science now.
But now I'm social scientist. So when I was hired full time,
Yeah,
as an assistant professor, I'm working in the social science
I got it
department
right.
as assistant criminal justice professor.
Awesome. Rohit, so where does your desire to be an attorney come from? Does it come from taking classes with Dr. Holler Gregory, or is this something
Uh,
else that came about?
well, if I'm going to be fully honest with you, it's just that a large part of my life, especially from when it comes to public schooling, I really didn't know something that I wanted to do. Like I knew I had an interest in all these fields like psychology, philosophy, criminal justice was among them, and even business. But there was nothing entirely that pointed me like strongly to one of them. And eventually I got this idea, like, I know I'm articulate, I know I'm able to perform well when it comes to perhaps arguments, and I know that I can appeal to a larger crowd because I do have a background from being in band and performing in concerts. So one of the ideas that I got is, why not just be a lawyer? You know, because it is something, it is a field that you can be very engaged in. It's a field that you constantly have to evolve as a person and as an attorney to truly excel in. And I do believe that going down this path, going down this career, it's going to make me perhaps someone that I want to be. Like when I envision myself in the future, I can't really see that without me being an attorney.
Okay. It's funny because when I finished graduate school in art,
Mhm.
I was at a college, university that had a a well-known law school. And I started to, maybe I should just become an attorney because I'm not going to be able to pay back my student loans as an artist. But I'm sure things would have gotten a lot worse financially if I had, if I could have even gotten in. That's the joke. Passing the L's, I didn't do particularly well on my SATs, so I can only imagine what the LSATs would have looked like. Okay. Well, so you've talked a little bit, Dr. Holly Gregory, about your some of the things that you do, and we could talk a little more. So, what are the particular classes you're teaching in social science?
So I teach Introduction to Criminal Justice. Currently, right now, I'm teaching Introduction to Criminal Justice and Criminology. Those are the two major courses that I teach. Um, Now, those courses in the Introduction to Criminal Justice is really based upon criminal justice procedures and policies. So we talk about policing, corrections. We talk about the legal field, and the courts. So really, it's just that class entails the basics of the criminal justice system and understanding the policies and procedures that govern the criminal justice system. In my criminology course, that's more geared towards teaching about psychology, crime, and why people commit crimes, and statistics, how we analyze crime, in order to come up with a law and theories of why people commit crimes. So that's my criminology course. So we touch upon an array of different topics, but I really do enjoy both courses because as an attorney, you get experience in every field. So I have a lot of experience in psychology as a family law attorney. I was the one, determining who were the competent psychologists we should bring forward to court and who can be qualified as experts. So an attorney, from personal injury law to family law, I'm really rehearsed in psychology, and the medical field. And we have to take continuing legal education courses to stay up to date with new trends in these fields, because a major part of proving cases is utilizing experts.
All right, Rohit, have you taken some of these classes already, or where are you in your process?
Currently, I'm still in my freshman year of college, but I am taking Intro to Criminal Justice. I already had my first seminar to criminal justice, but I am on my way. I believe the next class I'll be taking is probably criminology, but yes.
All right, and Dr. Holly Gregory, we know each other too through, well, faculty council, which is people don't realize is a governance body. It's responsible for electing the university faculty senators to CUNY Central. It's one of the many ways. Not to mention, uh, you know, uh, I want to say Dr. Isaacs, the chair, sits on the CUNY Senate as a representative for that body as well. But how do you find yourself uh, developing this other piece, which is the Black Lives Matter Summit? How did you get involved with that?
So with the Black Lives Matter Summit, I have to give credit to Dr. Vanessa Bang, who was the chair of the Social Sciences Department, and also instrumental was Charlene Bryant. She's a professor, assistant professor of criminal justice in the Social Sciences Department. They were instrumental in introducing me to Jason Hendrickson, who was the chair at the time. And so I began my first instance and involvement with Black Lives Matter was an event which was entitled "So You Think You Know Your Rights." And in that event, I moderated a conversation with Charlene Bryant about the law, what the law is, and what rights really are. And so that really interested me in pursuing opportunities with the Black Lives Matter Summit. And eventually, soon thereafter, I consulted with Wendy Nicholson and Jason Hendrickson, and they offered me the opportunity to work as a co-chair with Rachel Romaine. Rachel Romaine is big in campus life here at LaGuardia Community College, and so I was able to work in conjunction with her. So currently, I co-chair the event with Rachel Romaine.
These are you're talking about lions, and for me, because of the distance that's been created by the COVID, and I haven't been able to see them in a while. Many of those folks you talk about, I've sat in with the faculty and staff of Color Collective, which I believe you're part of as well. Am I correct?
Yes, yes,
You've
that is
attended those
correct.
meetings. So you're standing on the shoulders of giants when you're working with all these names and folks that you're talking about right now. Maureen, have you taken any classes with some of the folks that he mentioned? Either Professor Bryan or Professor Bing's on sabbatical right now. Is that correct?
Correct.
Professor Hendrickson, you would have had to take an English class with.
Yeah,
Uh,
I haven't had the pleasure of working with them yet, but I do look forward to it when the opportunity do arise.
we'll get so what's entailed with the ongoing work of Black Lives Matter on campus. I mean, is this come out of BMEC as well, the Black Male Empowerment Coalition, or is it Coalition?
Cooperative, yes.
Cooperative, excuse me.
Yes. So Rachel Romaine, she works with BMEC. She's instrumental in working with them in campus life. So they do also have a hand. So at our kickoff event, we had Dr. Jonathan Quash. He was part of the CUNY Black Male Initiative. He's the director of that program. And he gave some words of encouragement too at the Black Lives Matter Summit. Um, so they do have a hand in the Black Lives Matter Summit, but currently we also partner with La Casa. Ryan Man Hamilton, Professor Ryan Man Hamilton, works on the committee. He's instrumental in developing events and descriptions of those events and titles for those events. And the first pre-event that we worked on was the pre-La Casa event for Black Lives Matter Summit, and that was entitled. That event was entitled Understanding Latino Anti-Black Bias. And we had a guest speaker, Tanya Hernandez, at that event. And she really dived into the different types of Afro-Latinos versus other different ethnicities and races within the Latino or Hispanic community. So that was our first event. That was Friday, April 21st. Then we had a kickoff event April 24th, which was entitled Uplifting Black Youth Through Community Engagement. And that event, we had James L. Motley. He was the keynote speaker. He's a motivational speaker, and he was incarcerated from the age of 17 to 25. And so he really told his story and talked about his experience as words of encouragement and support for all of our students that may be going through challenging times. And then yesterday, we actually held an event in the Little Theater entitled Exploring the Narrative Film Weep Not and the Use of Art in Our Black Communities. We had an award-winning actress, producer, and writer, Sheree O'Neal, attend that event, and she discussed child-on-child abuse pertaining to the film that she helped produce, which is entitled Weep Not. So that was very interesting. And the title of that event was, as I said, Exploring the Narrative Film Weep Not and the Use of Art in Our Black Communities. So that was our last, those were our first 3 in-person events. And now today, we actually have a Zoom event. That Zoom event is entitled The Different Faces of Blackness. And that event will be held from 4 to 5:30 p.m. So you can RSVP on the Black Lives Matter website for today, which is going to be an exceptional event with a lot of different panelists and guest speakers to talk about many different ethnicities in Black culture and races, to have an understanding of differences and similarities of the different types of Black communities. Also, Thursday, April 27th is our last event. That will be held from 2 to 3:30, and the name of that event is Violence Facing the Black Community. And in light of the murder of Tyree Nichols, we intend to explore the effects of targeted violence in African American communities. We also intend to discuss violence against the LGBTQ community, which are contemporary relevant issues that we feel need to be addressed and need to be given light, because many people are suffering, and many injustices are occurring to specific types of people and groups.
Rohit, have you attended any of these events?
Yes, I attended the Kickstarter event, and I also attended the event on Monday when James Motley was there as the motivational speaker.
And what was your experience of these events? What'd you
It
come away
was
with?
honestly, it was awesome. It was honestly very welcoming. It wasn't one of those things where it was just referring to those that have been victims, but also to us as like a community entirely. I'll give you an example. On Monday, when we had James Motley, he was giving such positive messages that apply to everyone. Really, one of the things that one of my key takeaways from it was when he said, regardless of what you are going through, know that you have what it takes to move forward. You have what it takes to become your own person, regardless of the circumstances that you're put in. And looking back on that, I just thought that was so wholesome, and everybody that was there was very engaged. We were asking questions, and it was just amazing to be able to meet such great people, especially at such a young age, and really have someone to perhaps look up to, perhaps ask questions for someone that's already been there and done that. I thought that was pretty cool.
You know,
Another thing I wanted to
oh,
address too
sorry.
is that, sorry, I apologize,
No,
but
go right ahead.
one of the things I saw with a lot of my students, they weren't familiar with a lot of the administrative staff too. So it offered them an opportunity to meet Wendy Nicholson, who's the director of diversity, equity, and inclusion. The provost was there, and gave opening remarks. So that was amazing, and she was exceptional. And also the president, he came to the kickoff, and gave opening remarks. So it really allowed for students to see who the president is, and have some interaction with the administrative staff, which I think is key to the development of students too.
Yeah, and I mean the one thing I was going to say, because I'm working with the diversity, equity, inclusion, or it's actually called something else, inclusivity, diversity, equity, and accessibility at the University Faculty Senate level. There's a committee that's working on those things. And one of the things I always bring up is that it's important that when a student walks into a room, in the front of that room, teaching that class is somebody who looks like them, that the impact of that is big. Rahit, would you agree with me?
I would say so. I think one of the things that students often lack or hesitate to come to terms with would be how being unfamiliar with a learning environment really makes you hesitant to want to learn. When you're in an environment that you feel at home with, when you feel like you know others, you're far more likely to be engaged. And I think that's something that not enough people take into consideration when we do talk about our education system.
Wow, it makes me want to like turn my classroom into kind of like a kitchen or something, make everybody feel at home.
Mhm.
I'm going to bring this up before, because we're going to do a deeper dive in the second half. But I was traveling with my wife, who's actually still traveling without me, but she'll be getting back. And we were staying with her cousin and her partner. And at some point, one of the last, what happens when you see people, when you meet people, or you're with people. In the beginning, everybody is cautious and on their best behavior. But the longer you stay, especially with family, it's like they say that it's with family and fish, it's the same thing. After 3 days, it stinks. And so, in one of our last meals, the Black Lives Matter issue came up, and totally caught me off guard. Which is that phrase saying like Black lives, well, all lives matter. And why is it so important that we respond? Can you talk about that? If somebody were to say to you, to use that phrase on you, what would your response be when they say like, why are we always pushing Black Lives Matter? Don't all lives matter, right? What's our answer to that? I mean, I have
So,
my answer.
so,
My
so
wife has
my
an answer. Sorry.
my take is that, when you see these phrases like "all lives matter," "Black Lives Matter," and then you see a phrase come out, "Black Lives Matter," and then afterwards you see a phrase, "All lives matter."
Right.
I think that is really a behind the scenes way to create division. to make people perceive that Black Lives Matter only pertains to Black people, when in
Right.
actuality, if you're affected directly or indirectly, if one group is affected directly or indirectly, it affects all others. So the slogan, may sometimes make people believe that Black Lives Matter is all about Black people and helping Black people. But in reality, Black people have continually helped all types of races and all types of ethnicities. Black Lives Matter is just bringing light to the faces and to the challenges and the issues that plague Black communities. Now, that slogan and the way that people perceive it may create division because others may create certain perceptions as such for political gain or for other reasons. But in essence, Black Lives Matter addresses all issues of all people. But it really brings light to Black people because of the countless injustices that they have faced in America throughout many, many years. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it only pertains to one group of people. I think it pertains to all. And I think those who say, oh, all lives matter, have felt victim to the perception of the political machine within America.
I wish you'd been at dinner with me. That would have been an eloquent response. By the way, they're good people. It's just like you said, they fell victim to the media. It's the half hour mark, so I just want to say the show is What's Going On here on LaGuardia Web Radio. I'm your host, Hugo Fernandez, and today my guests are Professor Dr. Kyle Holler-Gregory of the Department of Social Science and Rohit here, one of his students, current student here at LaGuardia Community College, freshman, and we're discussing the 2023 Black Lives Matter Summit, and we can't forget the mock trial event, which is taking place on April 26th and May 21st, respectively. Dr. Holler-Gregory went through quite a few of the events that have already taken place and are still to take place. But I want to just honor the fact that he gave me this great piece of, he was prepared like an attorney, of course, that sent me a lot of materials. Some of the things I just wanted to touch on, but we've already kind of spoke about. But there are some great questions in here that I wanted to see if we could ask both of you. Though I think we've already talked about the events as well and which ones we've attended. So should we move into the mock trial, or there's some things more things we want to say about the Black Lives Matter Summit in general?
The last thing I'll say is,
we can, by the way, Chris can pull up both the flyer and the website. Would you like to take a look at either one of those right now?
Yes, that would be great. So
Which one?
So if you could bring up the Black Lives Matter website.
All right. So my engineer, Mr. Pope, who's always behind the scenes, making things happen. He's getting serious now. He's turning his hat around. So, he's already done it. Look at this. He's put up the site. So what should we? And there you are, dead center, Dr. Holler-Gregory.
So those pictures are from last year.
Right.
So last year, during COVID, everything went online, and then once we got back to some normalcy, we had our first in person in the Little Theater, and I did that because I just wanted to, be the first to encourage students to start to engage with each other. In person in the Little Theater, and that's pictures from that event. But if you scroll down on the website, you can see the dates of the events in RSVP. If you keep scrolling down all the way to April 26th, you'll see that these are the events that I just discussed. The different faces of Blackness, and you can RSVP all the way to the right. We have an exceptional group of speakers, as you see there, and it'll be moderated by Dr. Solon Jenkins. And then tomorrow, Thursday, April 27th, from 2 to 3:30, we have violence facing the Black community. And you can RSVP at the website. We have another great, exceptional group of speakers and panelists, and that'll be moderated by one of our committee members, Andre Ford, who works with the Fatherhood Academy here at LaGuardia too.
I love how the link has, how the page has live links, so you can find out a little bit about some of the guests, but also the RSVP link. So it's great that they did this for you on the website. This is a lot of work, and these are some of the guest speakers?
Yes, so those are a list of the guest speakers. And the keynote was James L. Motley. So those are pictures of our guest speakers for our various events. And I want to give a special thanks also to the committee, the Black Lives Matter committee. They worked diligently on putting everything together. I helped draft some of the descriptions, and we all brainstormed to come up with these events. But after I wrote up some of these descriptions, we really looked at them diligently, edited them, and made sure everything was in place correctly. And a special shout out to the marketing team for developing the website and helping solicit these events to students.
Yeah, they're doing amazing work. Manny Romero's team, and I'm sure that Caridad Munoz, who typically works on the website, they all had a hand in this. It's well done. Again, I don't want to give short shrift to the mock trial, but we haven't really talked too much about it. So should we kind of move into that
Yes,
at this point?
yes, I would love
Okay,
to.
great. Hey, well, we got another. We have our another guest here that has arrived. So welcome. I'm just trying. Wait a minute. I'm pulling up my introduction here. Oh, and I can't find it now. There. No, that's not it. Okay, it'll come to me. There it is. So Elijah Caballero, welcome, LaGuardia student. By the way, you're muted, so we can't hear you. I mean,
I was able to be a photographer and videographer of both the BLM Summit events. I could definitely tell you how insightful and educational they were.
are you a photography major? You
About
start.
beginning? Can you hear me now?
Just go ahead and yeah, Mr. Caballero, speak again. Introduce yourself again.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elijah Caballero. I'm currently a freshman here at LaGuardia Community College. And, I was also able to involve myself in both the James Motley motivational speech and the screening of Weep Night, courtesy of Kyle here. I was able to both take photos and videos of both events, and I could definitely tell you firsthand that they were both like insightful and very like engaging. So thank you.
All right. Thanks for joining us. I was going to say, what's your major?
I'm currently majoring in film and television.
Oh, very good. But you do still photography as well. All
Yes.
right. Well, if you want to take a photography class, let me know. I'm over in and you call Professor Halagari, you call him Dr. Kyle. Is that your nom de guerre there,
No,
Professor?
they usually refer to me as professor.
Oh, they use the full thing, or is because I was going to say.
Elijah and we work with the Criminal Justice Club too. So he hasn't been a student of mine in any of my classes. Putting together a lot of the film, the photographs.
Is this going to be for the LaGuardia Web TV, Elijah?
No, definitely.
Excellent. Yeah, it's all a part of we're in the same department in humanities. I know, Professor Schaefer, Professor Stott, Professor Rubin. We're all in the same place together. Oh, but we've moved on. We're going to start talking about the mock trial event. And did you want the flyer made visible for this,
Yes, that'd be good.
Professor? Yeah. So, Chris, I don't know if you can pull up the flyer for the mock trial for this one. We're putting Chris through. Oh, there it is. LaGuardia mock trial 2023. And he's cleverly put it in front of my face. Oh, there it is. So, tell us about let's talk a little bit about what's going to happen there on May 1st.
So I'll briefly give a description, and I'll let Rohit and Elijah get. these are referred to as experiential learning activities. And so with those activities, students get to get a firsthand experience of how a trial may be. So it's not an actual trial, but it's a mock trial. And this I started from CUNY Law School. I would have my students for extra credit. Students really enjoyed it. They used to have to write up reflection essays about it. And I used to do surveys in my classes to see how it helped them with their learning, their writing, their oral communication and public speaking skills, and their interpersonal skills. And they found it to be very rewarding. It forces students to work in groups. It forces students to be analytical, and it also forces students to research cases and understand the law. And in some instances, we've talked about moot trial too, which are situations where you may make arguments and you'll simulate an appellate court hearing. And so we've worked on both of those, but our main focus has been mock trials. But both of those help to enhance students' writing skills, their analytical skills, and their interpersonal skills. So after doing a couple practice runs and seeing that students really enjoyed it, I brought it to the Criminal Justice Club, and we decided, we should do a mock trial here at LaGuardia Community College, similar to CUNY Law School. And so the feedback was really good. The meetings were well attended. So we thought this would be a great way to interact with students and engage with students from all different backgrounds and throughout the college. And one thing that's very important about mock trials is everyone may have to do this in their life. If you're a citizen here in the United America, you may be called to jury duty. So, and also, if you're a citizen here, so you never know. You may be faced with having to go to trial or involved in a legal matter, whether it's a simple situation like a traffic ticket, or whether it's a civil suit or a criminal matter. All those things touch everyone, and so you have to know the law, right? Everyone here has to know the law. So forcing students to understand the law and get experiences with it and how our systems work can help them in the future, we believe.
So we want to hear from Rohit and Elijah about what it was like to. Well, are they preparing for this, or because it hasn't taken place yet, right? But is it that you've attended these mock trials or at CUNY Law?
So my student Rohit, he's been preparing
Yeah.
for this
Okay.
mock trial that we've organized. So he's kind of new to the team. So he has not had experience with CUNY Law, but he has had this experience here at LaGuardia with our team, our mock trial, and our criminal justice club. And Elijah, he has participated more with the video and photography for the mock trial, but he's been there and witnessed the experiences too.
All right. So tell us about it, gentlemen. What's it like preparing and/or attending these affairs?
Well, I must say it is oddly fun. Way more fun than I had expected. Because when we think of a mock trial or moot court, it sounds stressful because we hear the word trial and the ideas of court and laws and cases is brought up. But when you're actually examining some of these cases, examining some of these laws, you notice some things that you might never notice in perhaps like a classroom setting. So it really puts it down to us being able to practice some of the things that we do learn in our classes. And along the way, you also get to meet newer people. Like I got to when I first came into the Criminal Justice Club, I met a bunch of other students. I met people like Kaya. I even met people like Kelvin, who is one of the people that in our Criminal Justice Club, who I believe is going to be the prosecution, actually. And you just will get to learn so much from them and their experiences. And it's something that I didn't really expect. But yeah.
Elijah?
Yeah, I will definitely want to carry with what he said about, especially this is being like a witness. It was definitely like eye opening in a sense of like not only the roles I see these students have to play, but what I notice about like and even though like these cases are fictional, there are like real life like rules and obligations like they have to, and it'd be like the defendant, or someone defending them. There are sort of like some. I find fascinating that there are stuff that you cannot say and that will immediately be opposed by the opposing like force. And I know it may seem like unjust at first, but it's also in a sense like it makes it like more competitive, even though in some cases you are dealing with somebody's like life. But there's definitely again like eye opening, like wow, okay, I cannot say like this, so I definitely have to find a loophole, or definitely like a way, just like even though I have to stay.
It's quite complicated with between procedures, and then there's the judge who is, I guess, managing the what's going to happen, what ends up on the record, what doesn't, what the jury can and cannot contemplate in the process of having to make their decisions. That's pretty exciting. We're actually moving to the last quarter hour, by the way, of the show. So here's where we usually start talking about the future before we get into our thank yous and goodbyes. So I will, Rohit, you've already stated that you're interested in becoming an attorney. Does that interest include going to CUNY Law, which is their focus is social justice, if I'm correct, right? And obviously, Elijah, I'm thinking you're going to become a filmmaker. So I don't know if what you're interested with the law and how that's going to play out. And there's plenty of films about certainly crime, but also the law, not to mention television shows all about it. So I'm just wondering what your plans are for the future before we get into Dr. Holler Gregory's.
When it comes to my future steps, even perhaps after the mock trial, CUNY law is something I'm very interested in because one of the things that we do learn within LaGuardia, within some of our classes, is how inequality plays perhaps a role within our legal and justice systems. And I believe that social justice is a great way of perhaps not only learning the law, but helping people that really need it along the way.
All right. Elijah.
There's one genre I'm definitely have been like interested in, which is one of like the incentives of like joining like the criminal justice club, was true crime. I mean, I have worked in like documentaries like in the past, and definitely true crime is definitely like more ambitious genre I want to like engage in. And definitely, I mean, with the experience of being about against like the nature of like law and such. And I definitely feel like with there have been again true crime in the past. So I definitely see like how it can combine both of the two.
All right. So, Dr. Holler Gregory, let's talk about the future of both the Black Lives Matter summits. Besides the event, obviously like you said today, there's a Zoom event, and there's also going to be, and the mock trial is obviously May 1st. But any future plans that we have for? Are you already planning next year's summit?
So we haven't started planning next year's summit. Once it concludes this year and we look at the surveys and we get the feedback, we'll begin planning shortly thereafter. Just because we want to take into account, we had surveys at each event. So once we review those surveys, we want to take into account any constructive criticism and feedback, and then start to plan next year's event. In terms of the mock trial event, we have plans to continually do these mock trials throughout the college. and also at some point to engage. We allows for me and other students who are reviewing this to determine who we think could represent us in these moot court competitions once we develop that. Also, this mock trial was kind of a practice run because to see the interest of students, also to get their feedback, because I'm in the works of starting a LaGuardia Legal Academy. Um, so I plan to start a program in which legal courses are taught. It's a mock trial course, but it really focuses on experiential learning. And I think these type of activities also allow students to meet professionals. So the bar associations, other organizations, professional organizations look for students who engage in these activities for volunteer work. Like for instance, I work for an organization, the National Association of Women Judges, and I do a lot of speeches for their Color of Justice programs. And college students and high school students come to those events. I did a speech in December of 2022 that recently passed. And so the goal is to have these judges um, gain attention towards our students. So I have judges now who are going to review our rehearsal Friday to give students some advice. And then, as you see on the flyer, we have New York State Supreme Court Judge Patria Frias Cologne coming in to help judge the mock trial. So I think having students exposed to judges, professionals is really going to help their careers. And also, I think, can help with the college's enrollment and retention because learning should be fun. And students should have activities that they do that they enjoy. Because when learning is fun, you pay more attention and you take more initiatives. And so I think since COVID, when things kind of got dumbed down, we were all online. Everyone was trying to figure out how to teach courses. Students were trying to figure out how to interact with each other. We need to bring that joy back. And I think these type of activities really help with students interacting with each other.
Yeah, I'm in wholehearted agreement with you. I also feel I don't know whether I was reading your mind or what, but I was just saying that because it feels like there's a real opportunity with you here. I mean, I don't know if you collaborate with Hector Fernandez, who I know is a former attorney and runs a paralegal program in the business department, but also this unique proximity to the CUNY School of Law, which Chris and I actually tried to take advantage, my engineer Chris Pope, we try to take advantage of the Sorensen Center, which hosts a lot of social justice events, global social justice events, and brings in some pretty good people. We were trying to set up something where we were going to stream their events live. I'm not even sure if they're back online yet, but it always has, something I think about is that we're so close to that institution that it would be ideal for our students who are predisposed to the notion of law to create, some sort of experience with that. But I like this idea of competing. I know that John Jay has a moot court. I'm guessing Brooklyn College, I think, is the other law school which has it. So, if it formed along the lines of, the Model UN. I don't know if you ever heard of the Model UN. Which we have a team here on the campus, but gives students an opportunity to explore Robert's Rules of Order in a kind of a global political setting. So if we could something along those lines would be very exciting. But I love this idea of the legal academy. Excites me very much. we're moving into the last few minutes of the show. We want to leave a little time for music, so I want to give everybody an opportunity to say any last words or anybody you want to thank before we close. Who would like to go first?
So I just want to give a thank you to Hugo for allowing us to come on the radio show. Thank you so much. I know the defense attorney, the lead defense attorney in the case. So please come out and see Rohit's performance along with Kelvin Ramon Ortiz. He'll be working for the prosecution team. We also have a witness, Nancy. And also, I want to give a special thank you to the Black Lives Matter Summit Committee for putting together all these events that we mentioned. And also a special thanks to Rachel Romaine, the co-chair of the events. She was very instrumental in putting everything together. And thank you to all the administrative staff, the president, Kenneth Adams, the provost, Billy Gastick Rosado, as I mentioned, Wendy Nicholson, the executive director of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Also, Faye Butler, she gave remarks at the event. So I want to thank Faye Butler, Dr. Faye Butler, and also Dr. Jonathan Quash, who works with BMI, CUNY BMI. And everyone attended the events, and all of my students, thank you for the support. And I'll let Rohit speak now.
Yeah, for me, I would love to thank the Criminal Justice Club as a whole, because I must say, I don't think this would be possible without everyone within the prosecution. And even if there's a prosecution and defense, it wouldn't make sense if there aren't any witnesses, you know. So I just want to say that this wouldn't be possible without the club. So I would love to thank everyone within the Criminal Justice Club.
No, again, I won't be saying anything new. Again, thank you, Professor Kyle. Thank you, Professor Hugo. Thank you, Christopher, for making all this possible. I mean, definitely, I would like to use, what I know that video and film to definitely, you know, bring this criminal justice club to light, and especially I definitely see it as very like educational and definitely like worthy of your time.
All right, and I want to thank you all for being on the show, and for Dr. Holly Gregory in particular for suggesting it. So the show has been What's Going On. I'm your host, Hugo Fernandez, here on LaGuardia Web Radio with my engineer, Christopher Pope. And my guests today have been Professor Dr. Kyle Holler Gregory of the Department of Social Science, and Rohit here, who is one of his students in that program, and one of our students from the Film and Television program of the Humanities Department, Elijah Caballero, who serves as a historian of video and sound for the program. And we've been talking about the 2023 Black Lives Matter Summit, which has been taking place. But we'll continue to have events, particularly today, April 26th, and the mock trial event that's been organized for May 1st. So I just want to thank everybody for watching and for listening. And Mr. Pope, could you take us out with a little Prince?